Blessings and peace to everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Real Men Podcast. Once again, we are four brothers dealing and navigating through this thing called life and dealing with the real issues. I am one of your hosts, Don Bell. My other co-hosts are with me, Brother Melvin Smith, Brother Orlando Hudson, and Brother Stephen Poulsen. And we have been dealing with this thing called grace and grace and forgiveness kind of in this one big bucket. And man, we've chopped it up so much to where we haven't finished it. It's so vast. It's so big. It covers so many different areas. So fellas, since the last time we talked, what things have come up, or have you had any tests in the area of grace since the last time we chatted?
Hey, I know I texted you guys last Friday about something I was dealing with at work, but you talk about test, and I don't know if it's test or it's a heightened sense of awareness to something. It's kind of like when you buy a car, you see something you like, you go and buy it, and before you buy it, you don't see any. You and then after you purchase it, you take it home. Everywhere you look, you're seeing that vehicle. Everywhere you look, you're seeing one of the same color. I don't know if it's just a heightened sense of awareness about it, or in a matter of grace, if we're being tested. And when I say a heightened sense of awareness, it's because now I'm noticing when we're talking about grace, when you talk about grace, I'm noticing all of the little areas where grace can be extended, the little areas where mercy can be extended, the little areas where we have to be unforgiving of others. Everything is not grand. Everything is not on a large scale when you talk about extending someone grace or forgiving someone for something. I'm seeing it everywhere. And then it's the analytical part of it as well. I'll give you an example on something. Just yesterday, we go to the movies. My mother and father-in-law is in town. We have lunch. We take them to the movies. We go axe throwing afterwards. But we get to the movies. On the way there, I have the Regal app. So I'm purchasing tickets for everyone so we could just walk in, but I'm having issues with the app. Get there, go up to the manager's desk, and I'm talking to the manager about the app, the issues that I'm running into because I wasn't supposed to pay for my ticket because I have an unlimited service. And he's assisting me with it. Okay. So while we're standing there and we're going over the app, and he's saying, well, try this, try that. We're closing it out, trying to get things to work. This lady walks up, and different backgrounds, different culture, different age group. She walks up and she says, excuse me. She just walks up, excuse me. I have a complaint. And so now it's twofold, because now she walks up and she interjects herself into this conversation. Not only does she interjects, but he responds to it. Okay. So he responds and he says, how can I help you? So, I'm feeling some kind of way about it, but I say, okay, I'm gonna be cool. I'm gonna chill. Now, keep in mind that the movie is about to start in about 2 minutes, and I'm standing there because I've been standing there for a few minutes. And he comes back to me and he tells her, well, and it was about the heat in the theater. He says, I'm going to turn the heat up for you. I know you just went seeing a movie, but I'm going to turn it up for the next person. You know what? Let me go in. I want to take care of you. I'm going to get you some stuff. Give me a couple seconds. I'm going to run into the office. And he turns to me and he says, hey, do you mind? I'm going to take a couple seconds and I want to run in and I want to take care of it. I say, I absolutely do mind, because my movie is about to start. And She gets offended. She gets offended. Okay. So I said, I do mind because the movie is about to start and my family is waiting on me. We need to, if we can get this resolved, we need to get this resolved. And he's advocating for her. He says, well, it's just going to take a few seconds. I said, but I was here first. What gives her issue the priority over my issue? I'm trying to understand the hierarchy here. Yes. So, and I'm trying to be cool about it. But what establishes the hierarchy here and the priority of issues? So I said, no, I would like for you to get this resolved so that I can go and enjoy the movie with my family, and she can wait. Now she turns and focuses on me and says, well, what time does your movie start? So I look at her, she walks off. Now she comes back a few minutes later, and now so what time does your movie start? So I turned to her, I said, my movie started 5 minutes ago at this point. Well, you have introductions and previews. And so now my wife is standing there, and now she comes and inserts herself into the situation. And now they're going back and forth, and she's telling her, you're being rude. So now she's telling my wife, you're being rude for calling me. So long story short, this thing is said and done. He gets the situation resolved, and then he takes care of her. But afterwards, now I'm questioning myself. I'm analyzing my interactions with her. I'm looking at my behavior all day, all during the time I'm in a movie with her. And I'm saying, was I supposed to extend her grace in that situation? Did I not extend her grace in that situation? Because at one point before it got a little bit contentious, and I told her, you're being rude. You're being extremely rude, and you're being extremely inconsiderate. I was standing here. You placed your situation and priority over mine. It's just rude. Give us a second and we'll be done. What was I not supposed to say anything? Was I supposed to just stand there and allow that to happen, allow him to take care of her and then come back and take care of me? And what I resolved to today was, it wasn't that I didn't extend her grace, because after I looked at it and looked at Orlando years back and Orlando yesterday, she was extended plenty of grace. But we have to be careful that we don't hold people accountable for their actions. It wasn't that she wasn't extended grace, but she was held accountable for her behavior. So do we give people those passes? What do you guys do in that situation?
I mean, listening to it the way you just described it, what brings to my mind, right? We get grace from Jesus Christ. He's our, he's the one who sacrificed his life for us so that not only we could go to heaven, to have eternal life, but also we can live in a real world with power, right? And so when you think about the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, what makes it so beautiful, and what makes the celestial beings sing and those of us who are redeemed rejoice, is the fact that his sacrifice brings together love and justice, right? Mm-hmm. It's the perfect amalgamation of both love and justice. And anytime, you can't get grace without having both of those. And I think anytime we're trying to either extend grace or receive grace without considering love and justice, then we're perverting what grace is. Because grace is afforded to us because love and justice came together. Justice said, you did something wrong. You are to pay for what you did wrong. And oh, by the way, what you did wrong is sin. And the penalty for that is death. That's justice, right? Jesus says, you know what? I love you so much. The penalty is still death, but instead of me allowing you to die, I'm going to take your place. I'll die, but I'll raise again. But my blood that has been shed, because I truly did die, but my blood that has been shed pays the ransom to you, or pays the ransom for you. So we won't go into systematic theology like that. But I guess my point is, to kind of wrap up what I'm saying is, you can never, like the whole part of accountability, that's injustice. Like that's present with injustice is what I'm saying. And so I like what you said. We have to be careful that we're not allowing people to not be held accountable. I think about when you were talking, I was thinking about the word meekness, right? And a lot of times we misunderstand what meekness is. Meekness is not us becoming doormats for people to walk over us, but meekness is about subdued strength, right? It's strength. It shows up. It's present. It's assertive in some instances. It stands for what's right. And once again, the word accountability. So yes, we cannot allow people to not be accountable just because we live this grace-filled life. I mean, Jesus even holds us accountable, even though we're the recipients of this wonderful, beautiful grace that many times doesn't make sense to us, doesn't, we can't understand it all the time. We're recipients of it, but he still holds us accountable, as we stated previously, to be stewards of it. So that's what I'll say. I'll let everybody else talk.
So I often think about, Melvin did a series maybe a couple years ago on righteous anger, and it
that's a good one.
Oh my goodness, this thing was rich, and it sticks with me to this day. I think about it when I feel myself getting mad about something, and I'm asking you, and I have to say, my anger is not righteous here, because this is not a sin against God, so I shouldn't be getting mad to the point where I'm ready to just lose it on someone. But when I think about that situation yesterday, and again, man, I've been running. I couldn't wait to get here to talk to y'all about it, because it's just I gave her my perspective on it, but no, you can't just walk up here and make me inconvenience my family, because you want what you want right now. It's not how that works. And then it's been bothering me, because, and I know it's because of the heightened sense of awareness, because we've been talking about grace. I know that's what it is. And it's been so many different incidents and interactions that I've had with people over the last few weeks. And it's just like, wow, grace, 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 grace. Go ahead, Don.
I definitely agree with you, and definitely feel that you extended grace from the initial interruption, because perhaps in your brain you said, well, you know what, let me go ahead and allow her to explain whatever her situation is, because it could be a much more detrimental situation going on. Is there someone ill in a theater or something catastrophic happening? Let me go ahead and get that out. But once she said what she said, and her issue was not as concerning.
It was heat. She was cold during the movie.
Cold in the theater. So that was okay. So now I gave you an opportunity to state what it is you needed. That was the opportunity for the manager to then say, okay, thank you. I've heard what you said. Let me finish assisting this gentleman here, and I'll make that adjustment. The initial point of anger probably came in with the service manager, whomever you were speaking with. For him, he or she not making that delineation and stepping in and prioritizing, saying, thank you for letting me know. I'll get this taken care of, but let me come back to this gentleman who I was already assisting. And so I think you definitely extended grace. And I think that we have to your point, we do have to be careful, piggybacking off what Steve said. Sometimes we talk about meekness, and particularly for those of us that perhaps at one point in time in life, maybe we had a temper, or maybe we had some, we flew off the deep end or whatever, right? So now, because we're overly sensitive to that, we're predisposed to want to shut, like I call him Big Don. So like y'all know, people know Donald or Donnie or Elder Bell, but it's only a few people that know Big Don. Big Don is this little character that could just wreck a whole shop. He'll turn everything. Like, I worked hard to get Big Don under control, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so when stuff starts to pop off, Big Don is kind of like, hey, you need me? We good? We straight? Everybody good? And so we work hard to keep our alter ego want to slap somebody personas under wraps. And I think in that situation, that's what you were doing. And then when it got to the situation where your wife and all that got into it, it's like that could have gone way south. I've only met your wife one time on the Zoom call, but she didn't impress me as a type of sister that, can't, is don't have no problem stating her opinion, throwing hands, whatever needs to be happening.
Them DEI certified hands.
DEI certified. Anybody can get them.
Everybody can get them. You too, sis, over here. We good, but we're gonna get our popcorn and everything for our movie like you. So no, man. I think we do have to be very careful because people will never learn and never grow from situations if we don't hold people accountable. Now, there's a way that goes about it. To Steve's point, it does not negate we are going to be held accountable, but the way that Christ deals with us, he handles us in such a loving way.
Yes.
It does not take the right or wrong out of it. It does not take the wrong or the error of the way out of it, but the manner in which he handles us is what makes it right. And so the way in which you handled yourself in, stating your case without it going too left, I think it was dead on. But yes, we can become overly sensitive and almost being too meek. And I've been guilty of that as well, like not speaking up when something should have been said. And I will often err to not saying anything versus saying the wrong thing. And so now I'm trying to actively keep myself engaged to still say something, but state it in a way that I'm not cussing somebody out, or I'm not saying something that I don't mean, but I'm really addressing the issue. Because grace does not cause us to have to walk around with blinders on as if stuff isn't happening, because that's just not realistic.
And you know what? As you were talking, Don, what I was thinking about is there is a pervasive, if you want to call it a spirit, if you want to call it an attitude, mindset, whatever, but there is a pervasive thought process, soulish nature that almost says to people, it's demonic, number one, but it almost says to people, how dare you hold me accountable? Right? And it's rooted in a whole lot of stuff. I won't get into all that because I kind of figure I got an idea of what it was rooted in your case. But there is a pervasive attitude that people are shocked when you hold them accountable, and rather than agree with the fact that, you know what, I was wrong. You know what, this is too much. I'm out of pocket. To save face and to satisfy, and this will go, I think we could jump into another conversation, but this so to satisfy the selfish pride, they rather point out the fact of you holding them accountable and make it seem as if you did something wrong, instead of just owning up to the fact, you know what, this isn't right. And that is where the battle or the tension of grace comes in, because grace comes in order to receive grace, in order to give grace, pride has to be dismantled.
Has to be. Absolutely has to be. And it is the greatest blocker of grace. You know, there's nothing we can do to earn grace. It's given, it's unmerited favor. But there are things we can do to block it, which we've talked about and which we've clearly established. And we have to be careful of that. And, you know, you make a great point, and it's something that I had to sit back and realize about that situation yesterday, is that there was a spirit in operation there. And it was confirmed when she walked away and then came back. And when she came back, the whole agenda was different. Now it became a mission of antagonism. Now I'm going to antagonize you. So what time does your movie start? And that's when my wife jumped into it and said, "You're being rude. Just give us a few moments." But it was a spirit in operation there. And, you know, it was trying to distract me. And that's something else. That's a whole nother topic. Death by distraction. We got to write that down and come back to that. Because if the enemy, you know, he seeks to steal, kill, and destroy, but destruction comes in many different forms. And sometimes the destruction comes by way of distraction. Because if the enemy can't stop you, he will go out his way to distract you and start sending a whole bunch of little stuff at you and occupy your time with distractions. But yeah, man, that was a situation yesterday where I really felt like it was a test. And so I'll give you something at the opposite end of the spectrum, still dealing with people, because when you're talking about grace, you're talking about interactions with people for the most part. Had a situation where someone literally lied on me, buried a knife in my back. And when it happened, you know, and this is someone that had been coming to me almost every other day, and I'm praying for them. They're going through something, and it's in a professional setting. I'm praying with them, praying for their family. I'm lifting them up, and I had to call this person on the carpet about something that they were doing, and they went back and lied, and they buried a hatchet in my back, buried a knife. And I said, okay, so I'll deal with them this way moving forward. I'm going to continue to pray for the family. I'm going to continue to pray for him because I know he's struggling. And then Friday, when I text you guys, right after the conversation, here this person comes and they're seeking mercy. They're seeking grace from me. And at that point, now that's a different interaction than the interaction that I had with the lady at the movie theater. Because when and trust me, he got held accountable for his actions as well. But as I expressed to y'all, as I'm in the spirit reaching to pull that knife out my back and show him his fingerprints on it, my blood's not on it. It's the blood of Christ that's on it, because I'm covered by his blood. And at that point, it went from, and I felt the shift in me where it went from, okay, let me get you together, to let me witness to you. Let me take this opportunity to witness to you because you're a believer, about the God we serve, about how that thing should have been handled, about when self-preservation kicks in, because that's what happened. He was in self-preservation mode, and in self-preservation mode, I became collateral damage. I don't care who I have to serve up to protect myself. And he pretty much sat there and said it. And that just opened up the door for me to just witness to him about so much. And, you know, God don't give us a spirit of fear, because he started expressing things that he was dealing with and had been dealing with for the last year. But in that moment, I was able to extend grace. And those are two totally different situations. But again, here's a test that I'm dealing with on Friday, and then another test that I'm dealing with on the next day. So yeah, man, grace is the opportunities. Again, it's like seeing a car, buying a car, and now you just keep seeing it. I'm just tuned in. I'm more aware of opportunities to extend grace. I'm more aware of situations where grace need to be extended. I'm just more sensitive to where I am in my walk and how I'm extending, how I'm dealing and interacting with people.
And that shows a lot of growth, because my wife and I talk about this all the time. And Bishop Hilliard used to teach, when people do you wrong, they know it. And as much as we would like to retaliate,
Okay.
and could possibly be justified to retaliate, if we really do hold our peace and let the Lord fight our let the Lord fight our battles, the way the song says, God has a way of orchestrating stuff at a level from a retaliation standpoint that we weren't even thinking about. Now, I'm quite sure this individual, when they stabbed you in the back in the way that they did, I am quite certain that they did not think in their wildest imagination that they were going to have to eat crow and come back to you and seek some level of grace and seek some level of justice and seek some level of mercy. And the fact that you did not give them the peace of your mind that you have been rightly wanting to do so for a period of time, and you just went ahead and handled the situation and extended grace. There's so much more of a powerful witness out of that. But I promise you, the guilt that person felt when they left your presence, when you could have went off and you did not, and they know they deserve to catch all that was coming their way, that's a level of retaliation on a whole nother level. And that's how God does stuff. That's why I tell my wife, we were talking about it all the time. Sometimes folks have done us wrong, and we be like, man, we should do X. And we're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to let God handle it. And man, we'll look up, and God be done did X, Y, Z. He done added some other stuff to teach them to, like, dang, God, I was just going to, call them an N-word back and slap them or whatever. And you did some other stuff, and so yeah.
And now you start praying for mercy on them. Now you start praying that God extends mercy to them, that God increases grace upon them. Jesus, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That's grace at the highest level. You're being crucified, you're being tortured, you're being treated inhumane, and yet you're extending grace and asking God to forgive them, saying they know not what they do. And it doesn't get much better than that. And to your point, it went from a situation where I should be correcting you, but I'm correcting you in love, to the point where now I'm encouraging you in your walk. You don't leave out beat down. You don't leave out beat up, even though you knew what you did was wrong. And you came in saying, yeah, I knew what I did was wrong and I'm sorry. But now I'm encouraging you. Now I'm witnessing to you. That's grace. That's grace.
God's vindication weighs more than man's revenge. And
one more time.
God's vindication weighs more than man's revenge. And many times when we talk about justice, we're really seeking revenge, but that's not God's way. And it's not always easy. I'm not going to say in front and act like, every time God has, or the Holy Spirit has led me to let him fight my battles that I wanted to. And quite frankly, there have been times where I've disobeyed him. And every time I've had, it's been a mess. It's been more of a mess to work through. It's been more of a mess to try to clean up. But the times in which I obeyed and said, you know what, Lord, I'm turning this over to you. And see, here's the thing. We just talked about it, love and justice. The knife was in your back. The blood of Jesus covered it. And when it came out of you, it wasn't about revenge. It was about vindication. It's about love. And so yeah, and like I said, it's not not an easy task for us to complete, but we can do it. And it's about, the whole time you were talking, I was thinking about, the scripture, a city that's set on a hill cannot be hid. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and they glorify your Father which is in heaven. So you're not supposed to hide your light under a bushel. You're that city, And it's funny because my dad he's my dad, but he's my mentor in a lot of things, right? And so there were some things I was just discussing with him, and man to man, ministry wise. He said, "Well, what you gonna do? You can't hide."
Wow.
The older generation just put it to you like that. It's a way for them to tell you, man up, get yourself together. He's like, what you gonna do? You can't hide. God called you. Where you gonna hide? And so when it comes to extending grace, where we gonna hide?
Can't climb in no well. Can't get swallowed up by no well. Ain't no hiding places.
But guess what? Even if you do, when he spits you back up, you still got to go the way.
Ain't no hide. Melvin, you've been real quiet over there, man. Just shaking your head. Come on. Stop double dutching, man. Jump in there.
Man, when we first started this series, man, one of the first things that I think probably all of us mentioned was grace is so vast. It is so broad of a subject, man. And Orlando, what you brought up today is, one of the things that I kind of got out of that is grace did what it was supposed to do because it made you think. It made you go back and think about your actions. Okay.
Yeah.
Whether they was justified or not, whether you was in the wrong or whether you was in the right, it made you think about it. And I think that's the one thing that when we are interacting with people, that's growth. Where you can go back and think about your actions, question what you said, question what you did. That's growth, especially when it comes to God, especially in living in a day like we are in today, because we want to be justified by everything that we do and say, hey, if it's okay with you, it's okay to do. Okay. Whatever you say, hey, it's cool, but that's not necessarily the case, especially when it comes to God. There's plenty of different ways, that the situation, could have went with that lady, but guess what? The old, as a matter of fact, the old that I knew early on, that situation would have been different. You know what I mean? But what did you say? Since having this conversation, because you buy a vehicle and now you see it everywhere. Now, you have experienced grace and now you seeing, wow, look at it over there. Look at grace over here. Look at grace over there in my life. It's doing what it's supposed to do. You know what I mean? And that's what needs to be done, because a lot, and it's growth. I'm growing in grace, and thank God that we are all in our different walks with this grace thing too. We are all ain't PhDs in grace. Some of us are at the elementary level. Some of us is at high school. Some of us is at some of us to fail high school, probably got to go back down to junior high.
Well, I missed this class on grace.
Right. But the thing is, it's about growth. It's about growing in grace. As a matter of fact, ain't that what the Bible said? Grow in grace and in the knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. We have to grow in this thing, and what you did, like with the lady, that's growing in grace, because guess what? You questioned what you had to do, and it's wow. This grace thing, and our conversation, especially having this conversation right now, it's a part of the conversation that we had in the previous 2 episodes. In the previous 2, we was talking about different things of grace, and everything. But sometimes, sometimes it's grace that I do go to jail. someone going to prison is God's grace.
Save their life.
You know, someone not getting that loan or someone not giving, what they really and truly wanted, that could be grace. And so we have to be very, very careful. And I heard all of you all say this, even in today's episode, about just being careful in how we administer grace and how we see grace and how we dish it out, because a lot of times, you have to allow God to lead and guide you, because a lot of times, we don't know what to do. A lot of times, I I may want to extend grace, but maybe not the way I want it to. And we have to see God about that, you all. I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy, and a lot of times, Melvin get involved sometime too, Melvin get upset, Melvin don't want to talk. Melvin, will turn switch and everything. But a lot of times, thank God that I recognize him now. I was like, nah, you ain't gonna pop your head up right now, big guy. Okay, because last time you popped your head up, I had to deal with the consequences for a while. And I don't feel like doing that no more. I'm tired of you. That's why, Orlando, what did I say? I get on my own nerve. I get on my own nerves sometimes.
Get on my own nerves.
Why? Because I let Melvin get in the way a lot. And by doing that, you don't allow God to shine through in your life. You got to, Steve brought up the verse in the 5th chapter in, Matthew, let your light so shine among men, so that they may see your good works, but glorify your Father, which is in heaven. A lot of times we want to be appreciated for our good works instead of letting God get the glory. We want that pat on the back. We want to allow people to say good job to us instead of letting them glorify your Father, which is in heaven. And that's a problem. Because what did God say? I will not give glory to anybody, including you, for doing what you're supposed to do.
We got to dive into that one, man. You don't struck a chord there. Acknowledgement, pat on the back when it wasn't yours. You're just a steward over it.
Yeah. What Steve said, a steward over this grace. And we have to understand that we're a steward over grace. And, and a lot of times, we want to be appreciated for the things that we've done, things we've said. And you said in our last episode, Orlando, when we want to give grace and because thinking that maybe down the line, I'm going to need you to do the same thing for me. That's a transaction. That's a business transaction.
It's a business transaction. That's exactly what it is. It's transactional.
That's exactly not grace.
Quid pro quo of grace, brother.
That's not
That's
grace.
what it is. It's not.
I heard a quote in a training recently, and as it jarred something in me. What the trainer was saying was that she was talking about transformative leadership, and she said, "You don't need vision to be transactional, but if you're going to be transformative, you need vision." And the reason why that stuck out to me is because everyone knows who's ever had vision and working to fulfill vision is that it's about faith, right? And the grace of God is so transformative, but it takes faith for us to, it takes faith for us to enact it, to receive it, to distribute it. But if we just want to be transactional, we don't need vision for that. We don't need faith for that. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. But that's not how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be living transform lives, being transformative.
Man.
Wow.
Woo.
And that might be a good place to pivot and bring this one to a close and marinate on it, man. We've talked about so many good, just so many different perspectives on grace, and I'm sure we'll continue to have more conversations on it. Anything as we wrap, fellas?
Man, we got a lot to. We still got some meat on this bone, man.
Hey man, we can chew on this bone for the rest of the year and won't get all the meat out of it. Man.
Why don't you take us out? Tell them where they can follow us on and connect and stay connected with us.
All right, man. Well, you can. We are please asking you all to really share, like, and share this. Join our YouTube channel. With the Real Men Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Real Men Podcast. On Twitter, Real_Men 2021. On Facebook, Real Men Podcast. So just join the conversation. If you all have something that you all want to talk about, you all have something that you want to, just ask some questions. We have been people that has reaching out to us through text, through email, and everything. And we're going to continue this conversation because there's a lot more that we want to talk about. There's a lot of questions out there. We're bringing up a lot. People are really and truly starting to think about some of these things in their lives. So we really appreciate that. All right. So you all please, like I said, join our channel. Like and share it, text it to somebody, email it to somebody, just let us know, that we're out there, having some really, really good conversations out there. All right. Fellas, you all got anything else you want to talk about or just say as we close out?
God bless. Walk in grace.
All right, fellas, we'll see y'all later. Until next time.